My mom's boyfriend demanded I call him Dad? I, 16M, have lived with my mom, 42F, full-time for as long as I can remember. For the last 4 years, she's been dating a guy, we'll call him John. I've technically known him for 3 years because my mom was very protective after everything we went through. She made him wait a full year before he was even allowed to meet me. About 2 years ago, we moved further north. John's job got relocated, and since things were getting serious, my mom decided we should go with him. I didn't really have a choice, obviously, being a teenager, but I didn't fight it. I didn't mind John. He was fine. He's the kind of guy who's very present without actually being there, if that makes sense. He pays for things, he asks how school is, he sits on the couch and watches the game. We never had a deep bond, but we didn't have friction either. Or so I thought. To give some context on why the dad title is such a massive minefield for me, my biological father was a nightmare. I have blurry, jagged memories from when I was really little of the shouting and the way my mom used to look at the floor when he walked into a room. He was abusive, plain and simple. My mom eventually got the courage to leave, divorced him, and won full custody. I haven't seen or spoken to that man in over a decade, and I don't want to. A few years after the divorce, my mom started dating someone else. He was the man who actually raised me. He was the one who taught me how to ride a bike, how to tie a tie, and how to handle it when kids at school were jerks. He and my mom were my entire world. He wasn't my stepdad, he was my dad. I called him Dad because he earned it every single day by showing me what a father was supposed to be. But life is cruel. A few years ago, he was killed in a car crash. It destroyed us. I still have his old baseball cap on my bookshelf. I still think about him every time I see a classic Mustang on the road. To me, he is and always will be my dad. The title isn't vacant, it's occupied. It's a permanent seat at the table of my life. John knows all of this. My mom told him everything before they even moved in together. He knows about the abuse from the first guy, and he knows about the loss of the second. Last week, John had to go on a short business trip for a few days. It was just me and my mom at the house. It was nice, honestly. We ordered pizza, watched movies, and things felt normal, the old kind of normal. When John got back, he seemed a bit high-strung. Maybe it was the travel, I don't know. We all sat down for dinner together. It was a standard meal, chicken, mashed potatoes, the usual. At one point, I realized the salt shaker was over by his elbow. "Hey, John, could you pass the salt?" I asked. I've called him John since the day I met him. He's never corrected me. He's never winced. He's never mentioned it. But for some reason, that night, it was like I'd slapped him. John went completely silent. He didn't move. He just stared at his plate with his hand hovering near the salt. The silence stretched out for maybe 10 seconds, which feels like an hour when you're sitting at a small dining table. My mom looked between us, her face getting that tight, worried expression she gets when she senses conflict. She reached over, grabbed the salt herself, and handed it to me. "Here you go, honey," she said, her voice a little too bright. I just muttered, "Thanks," and kept eating, thinking it was just a weird mood. But the tension didn't leave. It sat there like an extra person at the table. After dinner, my mom went into the living room to take a work call, and I stayed behind to help John clear the table. I was putting the leftover chicken in a container when he suddenly stopped. He was leaning against the counter, watching me. "Why won't you call me Dad?" he asked. There was no lead up. No, "Hey, can we talk?" Just that question, dropped like a lead weight. I froze for a second. "Because you aren't my dad," I said. I wasn't trying to be a jerk. It was just the most honest, factual answer I had. It was like he asked me why I wasn't wearing a blue shirt and I told him it was because my shirt was red. He didn't like that. He stepped closer, and I could see his jaw clenching. "I've been in your life for years. I moved us up here. I provide for this house. I've done everything a father does. Don't you think I've earned a little respect?" I felt my own chest tighten. "John, you aren't my father. I already have a dad. You know that." I'll admit, my voice might have had an edge to it. I was defensive. My dad, my real dad, is a sacred topic for me. Having this guy try to slide into that spot felt like he was trying to erase the person I actually loved. It felt disrespectful to the memory of the man who actually stood by me. "That's not what I'm asking," John snapped. "I'm not asking about the past. I'm talking about right now. I'm the one here. He's not." That was the wrong thing to say. I felt the blood rush to my face. I didn't say anything else, I just turned back to the sink. John lost it. He didn't hit anything, but he turned on his heel and stormed into the bedroom he shares with my mom. He slammed the door so hard a picture frame in the hallway rattled. My mom came running in, looking panicked. She saw me standing there, shaking a little bit, and she hugged me for a second, asking what happened. I told her he was mad because I called him John. Then the bedroom door opened. John didn't look at me. He just looked at my mom and said, "We need to talk. Now." She disappeared into the room. At first, it was just the muffled drone of a conversation. I tried to go to my room, but I found myself hovering in the hallway. Then the volume went up. I heard John yelling, not just complaining, but yelling. "I'm tired of being the outsider in my own home. I do everything for that kid and I get, John? It's an insult." A minute later, the door flew open. John marched out, wearing his jacket and clutching his keys. He stopped in the hallway and shot me a look that I can only describe as a death glare. It wasn't just "I'm annoyed," it was pure, cold resentment. He didn't say a word to me. He just walked out the front door and peeled out of the driveway. That was 3 days ago. He's been staying at his mother's house. My mom is a wreck. She's caught in the middle of a situation she didn't create. She spent hours on the phone with him, trying to mediate, but from what I've gathered, his condition for coming back is some kind of acknowledgement of his role in the family. Translation: he wants the title. The thing that gets me is the entitlement. He knows my bio dad was a monster. He knows my second dad was my hero and that I'm still grieving him. He knows that calling someone dad isn't just a label for me, it's a deep, emotional connection that I don't have with him. And honestly, even if I didn't have a dad in my heart, you can't force a 16-year-old to call you that. It's weird. I'm nearly an adult. If it hasn't happened naturally in 3 years, forcing it now is just going to make me resent him more. My mom keeps telling me, "He just wants to feel loved, honey. He feels like you're rejecting him." But I feel like he's rejecting me. He's rejecting my history. He's rejecting the fact that I'm a person with my own memories and loyalties. He's willing to leave his partner and blow up our living situation because his ego is bruised over a name. Is he providing? Yes. Does he do things a father does? Sure, he pays the electric bill and drives me to practice sometimes. But that doesn't make him my father. That makes him my mom's boyfriend who lives with us. I feel like the asshole because my mom is crying in the kitchen. I feel like the asshole because the house is tense and it's my fault for not just saying the word. It's just one syllable. Dad. If I said it, he'd probably come home, the yelling would stop, and my mom would be happy again. But every time I think about saying it, I feel like I'm betraying the man who actually raised me. I feel like I'm lying. So, am I the a-hole? Should I have just sucked it up and called him dad to keep the peace? Or is he way out of line for demanding a title he hasn't earned and doesn't deserve? Update. A lot has happened since my last post, and honestly it still feels unreal how fast things changed once the argument crossed a certain line. The night after he left, my mom didn't try to smooth things over the way she normally would. Usually she's the kind of person who believes conflicts just need time and calm conversations. This time something shifted in her. I could tell before she even said anything because she moved through the house differently, quieter but more decisive, like she had already made up her mind about something. She started by moving all of John's belongings out of their bedroom and into the guest room. I didn't realize what she was doing at first. I just heard drawers opening and closing, footsteps going back and forth down the hallway, hangers sliding along closet rods. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It felt methodical. When I asked what was going on, she told me she needed space and that things had crossed a boundary she couldn't ignore anymore. Later that night she installed a lock on my bedroom door. My door had never had one before because the house was older and honestly we never thought about it. Watching her screw the lock into place felt strange, almost like we were preparing for something dangerous even though nothing physical had happened. She handed me the only key and told me it was mine alone. She also said she was going to bring a mini fridge upstairs along with plates and essentials so I wouldn't feel like I had to leave my room if things became tense when John came back. That moment hit harder than anything else. My mom has always tried to keep life feeling normal for me, even when things weren't. Seeing her take protective steps like that made it clear she was no longer treating the situation as a simple argument. John came back the next day. I didn't know he was coming until I heard his truck in the driveway. My stomach dropped immediately. There's a certain sound you associate with conflict once you've lived through enough of it, and hearing that engine felt like the start of something bad even before the door opened. I stayed in my room at first. The house was quiet for maybe 30 seconds, then voices downstairs started rising. I couldn't make out words because my room actually has decent soundproofing, but the tone told me everything. His voice was loud and sharp. My mom's voice was louder than I'd ever heard it before. She wasn't trying to calm him down this time. She was standing her ground. At some point everything went silent. Not the uneasy silence from before, but the kind that follows when someone realizes they've lost an argument they expected to win. A few minutes later I heard heavy footsteps, then the sound of drawers opening again, this time faster. I eventually came out to grab my cat because loud noises terrify him and he had wedged himself behind the couch. John was near the front door carrying boxes. He stopped when he saw me and stared for a second with this expression I still don't really know how to describe. It wasn't just anger. It felt like blame, like he had decided I personally destroyed something he believed he deserved. He told me he hoped I was happy for ruining something good, then slammed the door behind him. That was the last time I saw him in person. After he left, the house felt completely drained. My mom sat at the kitchen table for a long time just staring at nothing. Later that evening she started making phone calls nonstop. Friends, family members, old coworkers, anyone who might help us figure out how to move back home. I didn't realize until then that she had already decided we weren't staying. The move north had taken a lot out of us financially and emotionally. Leaving immediately back then wasn't possible, which is why we stayed even when smaller issues started appearing. But after the argument and everything that followed, she said she didn't feel comfortable raising me in a house where someone could look at me with that level of resentment over something so personal. Within a day she found a place back near our hometown. Friends offered couches, relatives offered storage space, and people started organizing rides and trucks to help us move. I didn't expect that many people to show up for us, especially after being gone for 2 years. It made me realize how isolated things had quietly become while living here. She blocked John on everything shortly after that. Phone, social media, email. Apparently he tried contacting her through a friend's number later and went from angry to crying within the same conversation, apologizing and begging her not to leave. She told me afterward that hearing him switch emotions that quickly made her feel even more certain she was doing the right thing. Our landlords were told what happened because we needed to explain why we were ending things early. It's a small town, and word travels fast. They ended up being incredibly supportive and told my mom they didn't want any members of John's family renting there again. That part shocked me because landlords usually stay neutral, but apparently they had witnessed enough tension over time to understand something wasn't right. Over the next few days I learned more about what actually happened during the argument between my mom and John. She had recorded their conversation, not because she expected anything dramatic but because she wanted proof in case things escalated legally. She eventually let me listen to it after everything settled. Hearing it was uncomfortable in a way I wasn't prepared for. Listening to adults argue is different when you're not overhearing it accidentally but hearing it intentionally afterward. My mom explained to him again why I call someone else dad, explaining my history and the loss we both experienced. She talked about grief and how relationships can't be forced. His response was what changed everything for her. He yelled that he didn't understand why I called a dead man my dad when we weren't even related. Hearing that sentence felt like someone punched me in the chest. Not because it was shocking, part of me already knew he didn't understand, but because it confirmed he never respected what that relationship meant to me. It wasn't about wanting connection. It was about replacing someone. After that moment, my mom stopped trying to fix things. You can hear it in her voice on the recording. The tone changes from explaining to drawing a line. Since then, my feelings have been weirdly mixed. Relief shows up first. The house feels calmer without constant tension sitting under conversations. I don't feel like I'm waiting for another confrontation. At the same time, there's guilt that sneaks in randomly, especially when I see my mom packing boxes late at night looking exhausted. Even though she keeps telling me none of this is my fault, part of me still wonders if things would have stayed stable if I had just said the word he wanted. But when I really think about it, I realize the argument wasn't actually about a word. It was about control and validation. If someone needs a title forced out of you to feel secure, the problem isn't vocabulary. The problem is expectation. A few people asked questions after my first post, so I'll answer them here again since things are clearer now. John does have a kid, and his kid calls him dad. That makes the whole situation stranger to me because he already has that role fulfilled in his life. It wasn't like he was missing the experience entirely. From what I understand now, he wanted recognition inside our household specifically, almost like proof he belonged in a certain position. His behavior also wasn't completely new. Looking back, there were smaller patterns I didn't notice at the time. He spent most of his free time gaming, relied heavily on my mom to cook and handle household responsibilities, and complained whenever asked to help with basic things. None of it seemed serious individually, but together it painted a picture of someone used to being taken care of rather than contributing equally. The biggest realization for me came after things calmed down enough for my mom and I to actually talk without stress hovering over us. She admitted she had ignored some red flags because she wanted stability after everything we'd already gone through. Hearing that made me understand how complicated adult relationships can be. People don't stay in situations because they're blind, sometimes they stay because they hope effort will fix something that eventually proves unfixable. We're packing now. Boxes are everywhere, and my cat is deeply offended by all of it. Friends are driving up soon to help us move back. I'm honestly excited to return home, even though starting over again feels intimidating. I'll be switching schools again, which isn't ideal, but being closer to people who actually know us feels worth it. John hasn't contacted me directly since leaving. I don't know if he ever will. Part of me hopes he doesn't because I don't think there's anything left to say. The anger I felt at first has mostly faded into something closer to clarity. I don't hate him as intensely as I did right after hearing that recording, but I also don't feel any obligation toward repairing what broke. The weirdest part of all this is realizing how one moment at a dinner table exposed problems that had probably existed for a long time. Nothing exploded out of nowhere. It just reached a point where pretending stopped working. My mom seems lighter now despite the stress of moving. She laughs more, even when she's tired. That alone tells me this wasn't just about me refusing to use a title. Something deeper had been weighing on her too. So that's where things stand. We're leaving, starting over again, and closing a chapter that honestly never felt fully comfortable to begin with. I still don't think I did anything wrong by being honest about who my dad is. The man I call dad earned that place, and losing him didn't make the title available for reassignment. If anything, this whole situation made me understand that relationships aren't defined by what someone demands to be called. They're defined by how safe you feel around them. And once that safety disappears, no word in the world can fix it.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Daily Tales Update for more such stories.